When Wu Xian was 11 years old, she attended a memorial service for the first time. The black and white photograph of the deceased, Aunt Gu Xiaoyan, hung in the center of the hall. Her smiling eyes seemed to be watching her every move, and no matter which angle Wu Xian approached from, she couldn't escape their gaze. Wu Xian held her mother's hand, feeling that her mother was unusually gentle today. On the way out, her mother didn't rush her at all, and even greeted everyone they met along the way. There was even a hint of spring in her mother's eyes and smile. Wu Xian noticed that her mother was wearing a floral scarf around her collar. That scarf was usually only worn on special occasions. Meanwhile, Wu Xian's father remained silent throughout. His silence seemed palpable, enveloping him entirely and isolating him from everyone else. Wu Xian felt uneasy. This unease grew when she saw the provocative gaze her mother cast towards her father, full of satisfaction. Wu Xian's family lived in a residential compound of a certain institution in a small county town. Both her parents and Aunt Gu were employees of this institution. In the 1990s, institutions like theirs formed their own microcosms. Families in the compound were not only colleagues but also neighbors, and no one could hide anything from anyone else, especially not during somber occasions like funerals. Unless they were out on official business, everyone would attend. At noon, in the company canteen, colleagues who came to offer condolences gathered for a simple meal. In early winter, Aunt Gu suddenly caught a fierce cold, which later turned into pneumonia. Despite the efforts to bring down her fever, she passed away within a month. Aunt Gu, at the youthful age of 38, was at the prime of her life, and her colleagues lamented her untimely death with deep sorrow. As usual, the adults and children ate separately. Wu Xian sat with several boys from the compound. The boys ate quickly, wolfed down a few bites, then whistled and ran out to play. Feeling awkward lingering at the table alone, Wu Xian quickly ate a few mouthfuls and set her bowl down. Standing on her tiptoes to look at the adults' table, Wu Xian couldn't find her parents in the crowd. She started to feel anxious, so she hastily jumped off her stool and ran out of the canteen. No one was home when she arrived, so she guessed her parents might have gone back to the office. She ran past Aunt Gu's house, where the door was open. On impulse, she paused and glanced inside. Aunt Gu's husband, Sun Ji, sat blankly in the cramped living room. The dim light of early winter afternoon cast an ambiguous shadow, and Sun Ji looked dazed, his eyes red and his face flushed from drinking. Sun Ji was usually gentle and friendly, especially towards children, so Wu Xian didn't think much of it. Standing at the doorway, she asked, "Uncle Sun, have you seen my parents?" Sun Ji turned his head slowly, his gaze becoming complex. He raised his hand slightly and said, Xian, come here." There was no doubt he was grieving. Feeling she shouldn't refuse a grieving person, Wu Xian instinctively walked in. Sun Ji pulled her onto his lap, his damp cheeks pressing against hers. Xian, Aunt Gu is gone. Feeling something was amiss, Wu Xian instinctively recoiled. Sun Ji held her tightly, refusing to let go. He wrapped his arms around her slender body, burying his face in her cheek and neck, muttering indistinctly. The strong smell of alcohol overwhelmed her senses in an instant. Terrified but unable to scream, Wu Xian struggled with all her might. Just as she felt panicked, a low voice sounded, "Dad, what are you doing?" Sun Ji instinctively let go, and Wu Xian quickly broke free from his embrace, running out as if for her life. The boy standing at the door moved aside expressionlessly, allowing her to escape. He was Sun Ji and Aunt Gu's son, Wu Xian's classmate, Sun Chengwang. Trembling, Wu Xian ran to her father's office window. Inside, she heard her mother's hoarse and vicious curses. "Want a divorce? Dream on. Even on her deathbed, that slut can't resist seducing men. She wants you to divorce me before she dies? Fine, you want to die too. You probably wish you were dead with that whore, don't you? Go ahead. Godi. How many years have I endured your affair with that slut? Her death is heaven sent." Wu Xian looked through the window and saw her mother disheveled, her clothes unkempt, and her belt undone, pouncing on her father, scratching and hitting him. Her father's clothes were still relatively neat as he sat there passively, allowing her to tear at him, his face devoid of expression. It was the first time Wu Xian had seen her mother lose control like this. Wu Xian leaned against the window, staring blankly for a long time, then slowly sank down against the windowsill. Something inside her was slowly shattering. Since then, Wu Xian became increasingly introverted. She also developed a habit of washing her hands every little while. Not washing them felt like having thorns on her hands, making it impossible to do anything. However, her academic performance remained excellent. While not always at the top of the class, she consistently outperformed most other students in the compound, including Sun Chengwang. Like Wu Xian, Sun Chengwang was also quiet, but unlike her, he didn't excel academically, nor did he cause trouble. He remained unnoticed in class, burying his head in unknown activities. However, one day, the unassuming Sun Chengwang suddenly became the center of attention in class. His essay for the monthly exam was chosen by the Chinese teacher as an exemplary piece, and he was praised excitedly for it. The teacher even asked him to read it aloud in front of the class. The title of the essay was My Mother. Sun Chengwang read it in a calm tone, expressing genuine longing and affection for his mother in his words, which moved both the teacher and his classmates. Then, a low and clear voice was heard, "Humph, slut." The classroom fell into silence, everyone astonished, alternately looking at the expressionless Wu Xian and the stoic Sun Chengwang standing straight ahead, while Sun Chengwang gazed expressionlessly into nothingness. Wu Xian was a model student with considerable influence among her peers. Soon, rumors spread throughout the grade that Sun Chengwang's mother was a seductive fox spirit who met an early demise as divine retribution. Wu Xian quietly observed Sun Chengwang's reaction, but he showed no response. Out of the blue, Wu Xian's usually silent father filed for divorce, resolutely moving into the company dormitories. However, Wu Xian's mother refused to give up and alternated between showing affection and throwing tantrums, relentlessly trying to save the marriage. One day, Wu Xian was sent by her mother to deliver braised beef to her father and caught him in a painful state, his eyes closed as he lay on the desk, next to a thick hardcover notebook. She quietly approached and picked it up, finding it filled with Gu Xiaoyan's diary entries, photos, self-written poems, and love letters to her father. She recognized the notebook. It was the same one Sun Chengwang had been surreptitiously reading under the desk every day, according to her observations. He must have given it to her father. It must have stirred up her father's deep affection for Gu Xiaoyan, prompting him to stubbornly seek a divorce. Hatred surged in Wu Xian's heart in an instant. In the afternoon, when Sun Chengwang returned to school, there were photocopies of the love letters Gu Xiaoyan wrote to Wu Xian's father placed on every desk in the classroom. These letters were the most explicit confessions of a middle-aged woman to her lover, filled with intimate and suggestive language that made everyone feel awkward. Confused, shocked, and excited, the classmates looked at Sun Chengwang and Wu Xian, the instigator. Sun Chengwang clenched a few pieces of paper and walked to Wu Xian's desk. Despite his efforts to control himself, his chest heaved rapidly as he spoke in a low voice. "What do you mean?" Without lifting her head, Wu Xian smiled faintly. "Nothing much. Just let the classmates know what shamelessness looks like." Sun Chengwang struggled to find words for a while, his face flushed and his breath uneven. Suddenly, he let out a sharp and strange laugh, grabbing Wu Xian by the collar. "Shameless, huh? I'll show you what shameless really means." From the elementary school to the residential area was less than a kilometer. Wu Xian struggled as she was dragged along. Sun Chengwang, being a boy and in a fit of anger, almost lifted her off the ground with his force. It was the time when most people were either at work or at school, so the compound was quiet. Wu Xian was dragged to Sun Chengwang's house. Just as they turned the corner, they heard strange noises coming from inside the house, hoarse, hysterical, yet not entirely indicative of pain. One of the voices sounded somewhat familiar to Wu Xian. She had a strange premonition and instinctively remained silent, though her whole body trembled. Sun Chengwang didn't slow down. He dragged Wu Xian straight to the window and shoved her forward, saying, "Come, See for yourself what shamelessness looks like." Through the glass, Wu Exayan saw her own mother, naked, straddling Sun Ji, rocking and howling like two wild beasts, venting their instincts. They were so engrossed that they didn't notice someone at the window. Wu Exayan trembled all over, staring at the first hideous scene in her life, her mind blank as she stood rooted to the spot. It wasn't until her mother turned her head and saw her that her flushed and excited face contorted in an instant. Tears streamed down Wu Exayan's face like rain as she stumbled and ran out. 2 months later, Wu Exayan's parents divorced. Without hesitation, Wu Exayan chose to live with her father, enduring her mother's hysterical curses and tears. Her father soon resigned from his job and left the small town for vocational training in the city. Wu Exayan transferred to a boarding school in the city. Her mother traveled hundreds of kilometers every week to visit her. Sometimes they would silently have a meal together when Wu Exayan felt like it, while other times she would avoid seeing her mother when she was in a bad mood. Years passed quickly. Wu Exayan graduated from a distant university, found a job, got married, and had a daughter. Time flew by in the blink of an eye. Her father remarried many years ago, but her mother remained alone in the small county town. Wu Exayan visited her once or twice a year, and they spent a few days together in silence. It was in the county hospital that Wu Exayan encountered Sun Chengwang again. One night, her mother suddenly had a heart attack and went to the emergency room. The attending doctor's nameplate read, Sun Chengwang. With poor lighting and her mother's failing eyesight, she didn't recognize him, so she took the medicine and had a cardiac ultrasound before falling asleep on the hospital bed. Following Sun Chengwang out of the ward, Wu Exayan awkwardly thanked him. Sun Chengwang seemed much more cheerful than when he was younger. Old classmates, there was no need to be so formal. The next day, when Wu Exayan's mother woke up and learned about the doctor's identity, she didn't show any embarrassment and calmly thanked him. However, she became very reluctant to go to the hospital afterward. Without seeing the doctor, medications were not easily prescribed. With no other options, Wu Exayan had to go to Sun Chengwang several times for help. Coronary heart disease wasn't considered an urgent condition, so Sun Chengwang prescribed some common medications and advised her on lifestyle changes. Wu Exayan was very grateful. Time had added a layer of beauty to the past, and she even vaguely felt a strange sense of closeness to Sun Chengwang. Consequently, every time she returned to her hometown, she would invite him for a meal, bring gifts for his daughter, and ask him to take care of her mother who frequently stayed in the hospital. In the 5th year of her marriage, Wu Exayan discovered ambiguous messages from a female colleague on her husband's phone. Without making a scene, she directly asked for a divorce. Her husband disagreed, so she moved out. At the end of the year, Wu Exayan's mother passed away from a heart attack. Wu Exayan returned to her hometown to handle the funeral arrangements. She dealt with everything alone, busy during the day and crying alone late at night. She was unfamiliar with many funeral customs and often called Sun Chengwang for advice. Sun Chengwang rarely declined and, leveraging his local knowledge, helped her a lot. Half a month later, Wu Exayan's mother was finally laid to rest. Wu Exayan invited Sun Chengwang to dinner to express her gratitude. After a few glasses of wine, Wu Exayan became intoxicated. The next day, she woke up in a bed at the only star-rated hotel in the county, her clothes wrinkled but intact. There were traces of vomit cleaned up on the floor. Her knee-high boots were neatly placed by the door. She only remembered crying on Sun Chengwang's shoulder last night, saying many words of apology. She had completely forgotten what happened afterward. When she checked out, the front desk informed her that the room fee had already been paid. Sitting in the hotel lobby, she swallowed the hangover pills that Sun Chengwang had left on the bedside table with mineral water, then looked out the window at the simplicity of the early spring in the county town. Before catching the train back, she hurried to the best mall in the county and bought a set of dolls that girls liked to play house with, as well as a set of high-end cosmetics. Then she rushed to Sun Chengwang's house. With her mother's passing, she felt that the only emotional connection to her hometown had been severed. Now, she deeply felt that this childhood rival had unexpectedly become the only part of her hometown that she cherished. Sun Chengwang's 6-year-old daughter opened the door timidly and called out to her. Wu Xian sensed that the atmosphere at Sun's house was not right. The couple seemed to have just had an argument, and Sun's wife, with reddened eyes, brushed past her without a greeting and left. Sun Chengwang sat on the sofa, smoking. When he saw her, he hastily put out the cigarette and stood up. Wu Xian knew that it wasn't the right time for her to be there, but she couldn't just turn around and leave. After leaving the gifts and apologizing for her behavior last night, Sun Chengwang forced a smile and awkwardly responded. Wu Xian felt embarrassed and, citing her own marital experience, awkwardly advised him before quickly bidding farewell and leaving. Before she descended 2 floors, she heard the pattering footsteps of a child behind her. Turning around, she saw Sun Chengwang's daughter, blushing and out of breath, running up to her with a large box of toys in her hands. "Auntie, I don't want these toys. Here, take them back." The little girl blushed and hesitated. Wu Xian was surprised and bent down to hold her hand, asking, "What's wrong, Jiao Jiao? Why don't you want them?" Sun Jiao Jiao put her hands behind her back and bit her lip. "My mom said you're a homewrecker, seducing my dad, shameless." With that, she shook off Wu Xian's hand, turned around and ran back, saying, "Don't come to our house anymore. I don't want my parents to divorce." Sun Jiao Jiao slammed the door shut. The echoes lingered in the empty corridor, likely heard by everyone in the building. But Sun Chengwang didn't come out. Wu Xian stood still for a long time, then picked up the box from the floor and slowly walked out. On the train back, Wu Xian stared expressionlessly out the window until the sky turned pitch black. She climbed onto the bunk and fell asleep until morning. When the train arrived at the station, she dragged her luggage directly back to the home she had left long ago. Handing the toys to her excited daughter, she went into the kitchen and cooked a table full of delicious dishes. She suddenly didn't want to dwell on the meaningless messages in her husband's phone anymore, and she decided to reconcile with her past and her parents. They say there's a kind of bird that has to keep flying until it dies. Since humans aren't birds, it's inevitable to occasionally want to stop and rest on a branch. Wu Xian decided to forgive herself and forgive the occasional weakness of human nature.